Hello, this is Inside News with Dale Matthews and Mike Jones. Mike, where have you been?
I was in internet prison. I told Dale yesterday when we were talking before he did the show by himself that I was like a cocaine addicted monkey pushing a button and getting no result there for a long time yesterday afternoon. And finally, about 8:30, about half hour after he decided to start the show anyway, I finally got internet back. And so I don't know what sin I committed to deserve that horrible treatment that they gave me yesterday, but I'm back now and I'm minding my P's and Q's.
He means a banana addicted monkey, of course.
Oh, yes, because we would never say the name of an illicit drug on the program.
Right. Me, it's Pepsi. It's the choice of a generation.
Of a new generation.
Well, I don't know how new it is anymore, but yes, that's what it is. And as this guy says over my shoulder, do you remember the 4 important words? You've got to remember this all the way through this old black and white movie. Gort.
4 important words.
Starts with Gort. Gort, Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
Is this now? I'm not seeing this very well, but Elma, can I assume that this is like
the day the earth stood still?
Oh, okay, yes.
With Michael Remy.
That wasn't going to be my guess.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's Gort in the background. And here's Michael Remy, a picture over here. Oh no, wait a minute, that's Senator Merkley. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yes.
This guy looks like that guy in approximately the same way that I look like Ray Walston from My Favorite Martian. There is a of resemblance.
Now I have to look at this guy just to see what you're talking about. But yeah,
Michael Remy, yes, from The Day the Earth Stood Still. Gort, Klaatu, Barada, Nikto. You need to remember that because whenever there's some kind of trouble, that's what you're supposed to say to Gort so he doesn't destroy the entire Earth, which is a pretty good idea, which is, I hope, not what this guy has in mind.
Boy, I'm going to have to go back because apparently I have not seen that particular movie.
It's the 4 most important words from 1950s science fiction movies.
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I've got this guy's picture over my shoulder is you see here that he's superimposed over a picture of what looks sort of like Portland in the background. It could be any large city. This is the way that our U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley usually dresses. Now, this is not the way he dressed when he came to Grants Pass.
Yeah, he he looked like he was ready to start, shoveling cowpucky or something like that.
Yeah, a backyard distillery or something. Yes, right. And so he's going to be a man of the people whenever he's in Grants Pass.
Right.
And he's a man of the people whenever he's in Portland, of course. So the theme of tonight's show is beware of aliens bearing gifts. No, the theme is. What is it that these characters are telling us about what's going to happen in our future? And is it true what the county commissioners are saying? Don't answer already. Just wait for the punchline. Is it true what they're saying about how everything is not going to work out right, that the U.S. Senate is not going to give us any more money, and now it's really, really, really an emergency situation? What does Jeff Merkley have to say? And so we went to a bunch of meetings. Yesterday, was it yesterday? I think it was, wasn't it?
No,
we went to,
no,
sure it was. Sure it was. It was yesterday.
No, it was on Thursday.
No, Thursday. Okay.
Saturday.
Friday. I'd be right. Come on.
Yes.
So we went to a bunch of meetings. There were 2 town halls. And there was the most important meeting of the week with the county commissioners. And I got some footage in of helicopters and decibel meters and all that kind of stuff. So we were hopping Thursday on your behalf because we cover the news. So anyway, we're going to play some footage. You'll hear my question of the senator and the way that he answered it. Go ahead and play that footage, if you will, Mike. Thank you.
Senator, it's been said by a number of people here locally, especially elected officials, that it looks like SRS payments or something going by another name is just simply going to evaporate, which would mean that You weren't really doing part of your job. I don't think that you believe that's true. Tell us, what do you think is your prognosis for the next 4 or 5 years?
Who are you? They're asking if you're.
My name is Dale Matthews.
Dale Matthews. Thank you, Dale. The Secure Rural Schools is payments that have been made to timber counties, where the timber counties were under new rules that affected their ability to harvest off these lands. And back in 2007, when I was speaker, there was an expectation that these funds would disappear. And I led a bipartisan group of Oregon House members and Senate members around through many of the timber counties to hold a conversation about the impact this would have. It so happened that Senator Wyden led the efforts and got a 5-year extension at that point in time. And then that takes us forward to the time when I entered the Senate. And I heard other senators saying, well, wasn't it the case this was going, that 5-year extension wasn't going to be the last extension? And I said, well, as long as the regulations are in place, the funding should be in place. And we have found a way to renew this time after time, but it's not easy. And I'll tell you why. Oregon is disproportionately affected. There are few other states that have a significant stake in SRS. And so I held a sit-in of the Majority Leader's office. I invited Greg Walden to come over with his chief of staff and Senator Wyden with his chief of staff. And we won permission to put an amendment on the floor on a transportation bill. We won that vote, so we were able to extend SRS. Senator Wyden proceeded to develop a strategy in the subsequent year with Senator Baucus to put SRS into a bill called the Helium Bill. So you can see we're looking for every possible way to hold the federal government accountable to this commitment. We do need to reconnect Secure Rural School authorization and funding with PILT, Payment in Lieu of Taxes. Very similar program, but it has a much wider set of states that are affected, and therefore a stronger alliance. These two programs got separated in December a year ago, and that hurts our lobbying efforts. So we've got to reconnect them together. So I think I can speak for the entire Oregon delegation that we're going to keep fighting for the federal government to honor this obligation.
Prognosis?
I was asking the prognosis. Prognosis is going to be a very intense fight year after year.
Okay, Mike. Now that very intense fight year after year, that ended up in the Daily Courier.
Interesting.
Jeff Duell was in the audience. So you want to try to translate what he was saying there into everyday talk for us, please?
Well, essentially that he didn't seem to indicate that Secure Rural Schools was heading off of a cliff never to be seen again. He didn't seem to indicate that. And it almost seems to me that as long as somewhere back in the background here that you have the ONC, there's an obligation on the part of the government to perform in a certain way because of the ONC. And they, since the Northwest Forest Plan and the replacement of, shared receipts largely to and movement to Secure Rural Schools as a major funding thing, you almost have to continue to pay that as long as the ONC is still in place, or somehow you're not meeting the obligation that the ONC Act calls for. I may be totally wrong on this, but that's my interpretation of it. And so it doesn't seem as though this guy is just going to let, SRS fall off the cliff and not, fight for it every year. Although our local politicians would like to have us believe that so that they could pass a levy.
Now, we've had this show on every night of the year for over a year now. What he just said to you and this topic is arguably the most important topic that we've ever talked about tonight, right here, right now. Mm-hmm. Because every discussion in county government seems to rotate around, well, the people are stupid. Oh, that's one thing that's there. But also, how are we going to get enough money to keep doing the things that people are telling us we need to do? And the citizens are saying, no, we've evaluated that, and that's not what we want to do. Of course, we want all the bubble gum and balloons that you'll give us, but we're not going to pay any more for it. Thank you very much. We're just not going to do that. So will the secure rural schools payments go away? Now, what you hear Simon Hare saying very carefully is, well, probably because no one's talking about it right now. The reason they're not talking about it right now, I know this is repetitive for those who watch the show every night. Just relax. We're trying to include everybody. Don't be elitist now. Welcome to the show. We try what we want to do is we want to be sure that there's enough money to go around so that we can have it the way the citizens here want. And what Simon Hare's been very careful about saying is nobody's talking about that right now. Well, they wouldn't be, would they? Because this last extension, this last bit of money that came in was for 2 years. And no, they're not talking about it now because they try to push that back as far as they can. Mike?
Right. They never talk about anything until it's past time for it to almost be due. I mean, every year that I've been aware of them talking about this, it always gets pushed up to the last minute, and then kabunk, it all happens at one time, and you get the news that the ball just dropped or whatever.
Okay, so when we arrived, first thing that happens is his assistant comes up to us and says, "Are you with the media?" Yes, we are. Okay. Didn't ask Cheryl Walker yet, right? No, they're not. They're no media.
Yes.
No one ever watches their show. They're terrible. They're awful. They're the responsibility. That's why no one's moving to Josephine County because of this show. And so I said, will there be any additional opportunity besides this gathering? She says, yes, there'll be a time for press afterwards. Great. Because the question I wanted to ask him afterwards, you don't know if you're going to get a chance to say anything because there's a lot of people in the room and they hand out little tickets and then they pick them randomly. What I wanted to ask him afterwards was the theory that we've come up with here is that while the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives may decide that they hate Oregon right next to just almost as much as they hate Florida, they're not going to let half of a state go belly up. They're not going to let half of a state go out of business, have us go bankrupt because they're not paying their bills. They may not want to pay them, but they're not going to take the political heat for that, no matter what state it is. Mike?
Yes, and I suspect, though, that they'd be a lot more likely to arrange for SRS to not come through if they thought that we had gone out and taxed our people enough to handle things on our own. Then they probably would feel comfortable with cutting us off. I'm not in favor of making these people feel comfortable.
Exactly, because what is our job here? To comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. Okay, I just had to fit that in. Yes. So we've made up our mind about what we want to do here. Now, you know that our commissioners are out there telling everyone who will listen that well, they're not the lunkheads. The people are the lunkheads, and the people just won't do as they're instructed. And you're going to maybe need to come down here and tell us what to do and declare an emergency situation and take over everything and keep us as commissioners, please. And we'd like even a higher salary, but isn't that likely to happen? Okay, did we get even more money than ever before? I mean, you're talking about being run from Portland and Salem. Of course, everybody gets higher salaries because then well, how could we possibly get good commissioners if they're not making the same as the commissioners in Multnomah County? Why, we would never get good commissioners. Don't get me off on a tangent. Anyway, stop it. So the question is, are they really, really going to cut us off? Well, no, because it would make all of them look really bad. If the headlines were half of a state goes belly up because the feds won't pay their bill, no. It'd be more likely, in my personal opinion, and Mike's going to say whether he thinks I'm right or full of beans, probably both, more likely that they'd be willing to let go a little bit at a time of some of the forest land that belongs to us and that they're managing. Mike?
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that one.
Okay, so
I think Yeah, you're full of beans. I think that if there's one thing that the feds seem to be, you know, hard on, it's the federal lands issue. They're not, you haven't noticed any announcements of them giving any of this stuff away, or deeding it to one county somewhere or a state somewhere. They're not doing that. As a matter of fact, they are acquiring more, if you can imagine it. They own really most of the property in the western states. They own most of it, and yet they are still acquiring land. They're buying even new land to add to their don't ask me what their design is. It's so bizarre.
What is their design?
Yes, I told you not to ask me that because I have no idea. Maybe they're just going to buy the entire country and then kick us out of it. I have no idea.
And sell it to China. That's what they're going to do.
Right. Yes. Personally, what I think is, listen, they've been holding on to this land for a very long time. There's no reason, no rationale for them to be holding this land anymore. I think what they should do is sell it off to American citizens and use that money to pay down the national debt, and have it be stipulated in law that it cannot be used for any other purpose but to pay down the national debt. I think that would be a tremendous service, and then cut spending on top of that. But
maybe what they could do is they could make 4 little laws, and then as the money comes in, then they would change it from what? Trying to assure people the money's going to the right place. It's just another scam. It's okay. Anyway, so I'd ask this question. Right. And so I waited patiently, and she's kind of nodding to me. Okay. Don't worry. Afterwards, this is going to be okay. She did give me a nod. And then I saw the oddest thing. I saw his assistant go over and have a conversation with Cheryl Walker. Cheryl's like motioning her over. Come over here. Come over here. She goes over and talks to her. And then guess what happened at the end of this whole thing? Well, we're not going to have enough time for you to ask your follow-up question, Mr. News reporter, because, there just isn't enough time in this life to be able to ask such a question.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yes.
Okay. So, go ahead.
It sounds like it sounds like Cheryl Walker is really, heavily allied with, this Democrat and his staff.
Well, now, why would that?
How could that be possible?
Yes, how is that possible?
I thought she was a conservative.
No, I don't think so. Okay, so later that day, Herman Bertschiger, who's our state senator, right? He represents this area. He was having a town hall at the Ann Basker Auditorium. And I was the second person to be able to ask a question of him. And so obviously what I wanted to ask him about is something that you probably all want to know, is about House Bill 3453. Is it possible, you may not know it that way, but not the $2 bill, but the one that Cheryl keeps talking about, and the other commissioners go, oh yeah, boy, this sure could have happened, that the governor would declare a state of emergency, because it's an emergency right here. I mean, everybody says as we get closer to levy time, it'll become more and more of an emergency. So we just need no votes, and then there won't be an emergency anymore. But no levies. Is it possible that the state could come in here and impose this on us without a vote of the people? Is that possible? So I asked my question of Herman Bertschiger, who couldn't stop moving around. Go ahead and play that, Mike.
We've heard a lot from certain people in our community who have said, well, the governor would have the ability to come here if the governor declares an emergency and impose all kinds of rules over us and make us do things without a vote of the people. What's the truth about that, sir? You're walking.
Might walk out the door. I don't think so. I can't give you a guarantee though. I don't think so, because I think politically it would be horrible for the governor. Not just with the citizens of Josephine County, politically across the state. There's a few other counties in this state. And so what's to stop the governor from doing that to other counties?
Right.
So I don't think so. Okay. But I will tell my community, we do have to take care of ourselves. or there's people that say they will take care of us. And I don't think, I would rather take care of ourselves. And we do. We need to go out and we need to work on this issue. There's no question about it. All right? There's no, do we need the same sort of level of service, say, that Multnomah County has? Maybe not. Okay? But let's have that discussion.
Okay.
Yes. It like, you know, the body language would tell you, I'm not interested in answering that question. I'm heading for the door here.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, but this is what these characters here have been telling us. Don't count on the SRS payments. Beware of the governor. She's going to come marching in here with people with blue berets or whatever. Everything's going to be taken over. Do the smart thing. Do as we tell you to do, and vote for the levy, no matter what it is, whether it's Tony Webb's 99-cent levy, whether it's this, who's this other character, Mark Kelsey, with his 4 little levies. He says, well, Cheryl Walker took my idea, haha. Yeah, really. Well, there's something to brag about. And so it's Cheryl Walker's 4 little levies, with the other commissioners now kind of leaning in that direction. They're leaning in that direction, Mike. They're not saying, as Simon Hare promised that he would do, as Keith Tech promised he would, well, I'm going to tell him no, I'm going to tell him no, don't worry, I'll say no. No, they're talking strategy again. They're giving in, slowly but surely giving in to this. What's your opinion, Mike?
Well, yeah, it does kind of seem like the commissioners may go that way. And listen, Simon Hare is malleable right now. I believe that Cheryl might be able to get him to go her way on this thing. Because, you know, at this point, I'm not sure what the guy thinks he has to lose. The only thing that could possibly stop him would be you know, fear of being recalled or thrown out partially because of his advocacy of that. So I suspect that he would probably wait until the very last minute to announce something like that, because I think the deadline is somewhere in March, right? It's like March 21st or somewhere like that, in order to put it on the ballot in May. Yeah.
It was on the front page of today's Weekend Courier, where Cheryl Walker moves ahead, and the commissioners seem to be kind of going along with it, with the idea of this, you know, for the shell game thing with the new levy. They didn't say shell game, but we talked about this before, about why it is kind of a shell game. Are you comfortable with talking about why, and at least in my opinion, and I think in yours, why it is kind of a shell game, Mike?
Well, I mean, I don't have any discomfort in talking about it. I'm not sure exactly where you're going, but I do think that since I heard that SOS is not interested in pursuing something this year. I sort of heard that scuttlebutt, and I'm not sure who from. I can't really remember. But that being the case, if there isn't, you know, an outside entity that's going to pick this up, I think the commissioners will put it on the ballot anyway, because I don't think they can stand it if there isn't a levy on the ballot.
Yeah, and that's the city council made that very clear, that and Dan DeYoung, big time, and the mayor, big time, those two really strong. You need to get this on the levy because no one else will, and they're probably right, because that's a lot of effort to get something on, get this on the levy. It's a lot of effort to get this on the ballot, and it's a lot easier if the commissioners want something and nobody else does except their Rotary pals, to just put it on there. Oh, well, we're trying to offer, as Simon Hare said in the past, we're trying to offer an option for the people. Why, this is totally different than ever before.
Yeah, and I think they can hide behind that again. But here's the interesting thing. When SOS fronts a levy, or the Cuffs fronts a levy, are they the one paying for the campaign to push it?
No. Well, yes, they did pay up some of the money last time, but a lot of the money and the time and the effort and the volunteers and the phone calls and the bank and all the rest, it's the unions. I mean, sorry, it is the unions. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
no, it is, but no, that isn't what I mean. What I mean is in terms of promoting it. That last year Cuffs, they spent a lot of money on this, and it was Cuffs that did it. So if the commissioners put it on the ballot, are they then floating money out there to push it, or does it just sit out there by itself without any promotion? And you have these other groups that will, now that the levy is on the ballot, we will pay to promote that.
Okay. I'll tell you what's happened in the past and what I think is going to happen in the future.
Okay.
Already, Cheryl Walker has instructed county staff to pull together material for a levy. Okay, so you're already paying for this. All the taxpayers are paying for this. Keith Heck's idea was, well, we'll take that information that's already come out of the pockets of the people who have said they don't want this, and we'll turn it over to a group who will then, these are my words, act as if it was their idea. Okay, so it's just another fake. Okay, and they'll act as if they're a grassroots effort that came up with the idea on their own. Well, apparently she doesn't feel there's enough time, or not a guarantee that will end up on the ballot. And so what she wants is, she's already tasked county staff to do more research on it with the blessing of the other two commissioners. We're not for this. We're not backing it. Then why are you giving her the blessing to have us spend county money on putting together some kind of thing about a levy? Because it's so totally different. Yeah, right. So you're already paying for it. We're already all of us are already paying. This is why we're ramping up, because they're ramping up and they're spending our money already. And so Mike and I are going to spend our money. We don't have any money, but we're taking our effort to explain to you what's going on. They're already doing this, right? And when I said shell game, what I meant is this thing about, well, if this one's accepted but that one's not, then we'll just take the money out of this one that was already there and we'll put it into this one.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It's a shell game, right? And it's the same as it was before, except it just looks a little bit different. It's the same scam of, where is the money going to go? And I don't mind using that word. It's a scam. Where is the money actually going, right? And so when the Courier talked with Cheryl Walker and talked with the other commissioners, one of the big questions is, well, people in the past, it's only been 3 times in 3 years, 1.5 times in 1.5 years. It's never 9 levies. They're never going to talk about that. Not in the Courier, even with the new people. Well, this time we'll really know where the money is going to go. This time they're making it more clear than ever that you're not going to know where the money is going to go. It's more clear than it was before, because last time they said, let's keep it purposely vague. That was 2 times ago. Now they're saying, well, we're going to put it here, but actually this money may go into that one, may go into this one. And so if you want this over here, you got to vote for this one over. I don't believe you. I'm not backing this idea.
Yeah, and you know what? Listen, they can do this because if funding goes into a particular program that is normally funded by the general fund, then they just withhold the amount from the general fund that normally would have gone in there, and now has been replaced by the new levy. This is not even a new game, actually, but you have to understand that this is how these people do business. And wouldn't it be nice if we had people in there that didn't do business like that? That would be kind of cool.
Well, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable for me, because I think that Keith Heck needs to be replaced, and I'm so, instead of just complaining about things, I'm actually trying to do something about it, and I'm running against the guy. But yes, I think it would be refreshing if somebody had our attitude about this, everybody's attitude that watches this show. Look, the other thing about this too is that this is not the first time we've heard of this deal where you bring this in and this is going to go there and that's going to go here, and then we'll make the ultimate decision about where the money goes. This is not the guarantee, and they're going to try to sell it to you, to everybody, that this is a guarantee this time. Why? It's rock solid this time. Why? There's no doubt about, how many times have you heard that? It's absolutely going to go there. I mean, even Mark Gatlin said a couple of times ago, it's absolutely guaranteed. Why? These people, and he points to Sandy Castellanelli and I, he says, they're going to make sure it goes to the right place. And I look at him, what, are you insane? Yeah, no, there's no guarantee. It's the same old thing. But why are they continuing to press for this? Well, part of it is, I think Cheryl's looking for her legacy. Part of it is Simon, the same thing that Simon Hare had said, apparently, to somebody when he first was running, I want to be the first commissioner that got a levy through this county. Maybe she thinks she can go straight into the election, and based on her great victory on this, because what's her other great victory? Has she had any great victory?
Hang on a minute.
The 4 ordinances that were defeated by 80%. This debacle out at the Ivy Airport ×2. They're fighting real hard about this.
Too, yes. The whole ambulance thing. Remember that whole snafu?
Very well. This idea of effectively blocking the Merlin fire guys, and then and then they finally got in, partly because they credited us, this show, for seeing that they got fairly treated. I honestly, I just can't point to anything where Cheryl's been successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she really wants this to go through, and she knows that that Dan DeYoung and Mayor Fowler are really pushing hard on Cheryl in particular. She picked it up and run down the street with this. That this is going to be the savior of the county, but it absolutely depends on the idea that we're not going to get SRS payments. It's really over now. It's really over this time, and that we can't count on anything except for the one idea, which is completely different this time, a property tax. So Merkley was not the only person to say something interesting at that meeting. Mike has this, I think, fairly hilarious footage from that meeting where there was some in the audience that stood up and painted a rather apocalyptic picture, not of our county finances, but of what would happen if you didn't march lockstep with people from with a certain view of life. Why don't you play that, Mike?
This.
Senator Merkley, you spoke about the LNG pipeline and all of the
Now watch the expression on Dave Daniels' face up in the upper right corner.
Desertification, ocean acidity, and so forth. We've known this since the 1960s. And we need to make an enormous shift immediately. And I have solutions, tons of solutions. One is public transportation, electric buses. I would like to coordinate with you, one member of your staff, and I'm coordinating with Representative Walden's staff to utilize the $22.5 million in federal funds available in grants for low emissions transit buses. And I'm also directed to work with the local commissioners as well as the Grants Pass Transit District. So I wondered, how committed are you to moving into the 21st century rather than hanging out in the 1850s with our fossil fuels? We have enormous technology, solar windows.
This would be interesting if she was actually interested in an answer to that question. But no, this was part of the statement that she was making. Have you gotten the idea that she's not exactly for us refiring up a resource economy here?
Well, Mike, we need to eventually move into the 21st century instead of 1850s.
Yes, right.
And she's directed to work with the Grants Pass.
Yeah, who's directing her?
And exactly how is she working and coordinating? I'm coordinating with people. You are? How are you? I like Scott Chansey. How's she coordinating with him? And who's directing her to go do this? I don't know. I mean, I agree with some of the things she's saying. I mean, eventually fossil fuels, I don't know, one of these days, it's going to get harder and harder. We are doing things with fracking, which they always said they would never do, that it was going to cost too much. Well, they're doing it now. Okay, and I'm not really delighted with the fact that the Middle East is calling the shots on a lot of things because they have a lot of fossil fuels under them. Yeah, I understand some of what she's saying. It's just that this is the point, this is the kickoff point. You stopped at exactly the right point where the hyperbole gets turned way up.
Yes, that's right.
Here we go.
Yes, here we go.
Solar roads that we're not utilizing. We can put thousands and thousands of people to work, and the LNG pipeline will only provide 50 permanent jobs. I think to destroy the beautiful Oregon climate, the beautiful Oregon rivers, forests, and so forth, to put oil trains and liquid natural gas. We've got a leak in California right now that cannot be contained. Are you aware of that leak?
Yes, I am.
That gas leak? Okay. We have
I wasn't.
explosions all over the country. We have trains exploding all over the country, fires and so on and so forth. Imagine a pipeline exploding in Oregon and taking down the forest everywhere.
What?
Close to 300 miles of pipeline. Just imagine one part of that pipeline blowing up and taking down our forests, poisoning our waters, ripping up, destroying the beautiful countryside. We have alternatives, and we need to move very, very quickly for our future generations.
Dave looks stunned.
Thank you.
Thank you. We mentioned a lot of
Well, a lot of people in the audience resonated with that.
Wow.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
she
well-
almost had, she had me, I was kind of trailing along behind her, going along with her until suddenly all of the forests were going to catch on fire. There are conflagrations can happen with LNG, and Mike and I have talked about this, okay? Yes, but this is, I just don't feel that this serves the cause by saying everything's going to go up in flames any more than move that camera, Mr. Matthews, or it's going to fall over and burst into flames also. It's too much.
Right.
So what's your opinion about the crowd that was there? Tell us about the crowd, Mike.
Well, you know, it was kind of a mix, I'd say, of, you know, I mean, you had some people who were, you know, boy, you're going to get a greater number of, you know, later in life hippies and stuff of that nature. Your greenies, your you know, environmentalist types at a meeting of a Democratic senator. And that's what you kind of had in this particular case. And then you had, you know, some people that were in there concerned with, you know, the economy that we've historically had in this county. And, you know, so it was a mix. I mean, people wanted to hear what this guy had to say, regardless of what party they were from. But it was an interesting mix that I don't normally see when I'm, you know, driving around Grants Pass. I just thought there was a larger concentration of it because, you know, we're about a 60-40 split here. And, you know, I think that you have people who come to a meeting like this are more political than others. And so you're going to have people that are, you know, diehard conservatives, and you're going to have people that are diehard, you know, environmentalist fearmongers like this gal. And, you know, so it was an interesting mix.
There was one point at which I'd never seen this before, where there was a kind of a battle of applause, where somebody on the more left-leaning environmental people, oh, yeah, boy, that's the best idea in the world, and then right afterwards, someone said something that was from the treating minerals and trees as resources side, said something, and they're the best idea in the world. and they were about equal in audibility anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got when I went to the Bertschiger town hall, someone else got to ask a question ahead of time. You want to listen very carefully to how Herman Bertschiger states this. Listen to the point at which he says, you got to listen fast. Listen to the point at which he starts to talk about the 4 new levies and then stops and changes the discussion. You listen to this and tell Mike and I, because we're going to follow right after you've listened to this, and tell you whether we believe Herman Bertschiger is in favor of another levy. And here's the question. Why is it that after 9 votes since 2015, we still have politicians, local politicians, who believe there's no consensus of opinion. None. There just isn't any. We don't know what the people want. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and actually, right before we go to that here for a second, let's take a quick look at the, this is a U.S. map depicting all of the pipelines, oil and gas crisscrossed all over. Look at Texas and Louisiana. You can barely see those states. There's so many pipelines down there, and they're exploding all over. No wonder Texas has no forest left, because the pipelines explode all the time.
Yeah, that's why Texas is mostly flat, arid land, because the pipelines have killed everything. And you see them going through the Central Valley and California?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that over there. So very, very interesting. And I believe the red is oil, and the blue is gas.
I was asked a question about something similar to this today, and what's your opinion? And I said, in my opinion, whether the people are right or wrong, they should be deciding. And so if a majority of the people, a big majority, like 80%, like we've had on a couple of votes recently, if they say this is not what we want, then the people have spoken, whether they're right or wrong. They've spoken, and I'm going to back them. Right. If it's a 50-50 thing, like this thing on marijuana, I don't smoke marijuana. It's a legal product. But since it's 50-50, it truly is 50-50 in our county, I am not going to back up something because it's legal and inflict it on at the other 50%. And also, I'm not going to listen to the other 50% and say you can't do something that's legal. You're going to have to balance this out, because the idea is, on this show or as a human being or as a commissioner or whatever, you're supposed to represent everybody. And so if these people that are around that LNG site say we don't like it because we don't like acronyms like LNG or whatever their reason is, but we don't like it because if something horrific happened, here's the list of things that would be bad. Okay, that's probably true if something horrific happened. If they say they don't want it, then their local politicians should back them.
Oh, and I completely agree with that. I'm not making fun. I'm just making fun of it because she was just so.
That was a little over the top.
Over the line, crazy over the line. And I think, listen, if you don't want a gas pipeline, and the majority of your county, I mean, if they put this thing to a vote, and your side being in favor of a gas pipeline loses, you're out of luck.
It's America.
That's the way it is, right? Yeah.
Okay, so now here is the lead into this was Herman Bertschiger, and he's talking about how we really just don't know. What do the people want? We just don't know. Listen to where he says about 4, and he sort of changes it right after saying 4, and then his solution for all of this, which is you just got to figure out what the price tag is. No, we made that clear already. Go ahead, Herman. Explain it, please.
Trust me, I understand the situation in Josephine County very good. I just spent an hour and a half with Sheriff Daniel the other day going over this again, and what's happening in the county. And we got to keep this conversation going with our county residents. And I don't quite know exactly how to go at it, but I think the conversation needs to start at what level of service we want in this county. And whether we do I know SOS did a lot of work in that area, but I think we got to do some more. And we got to get a better pulse on what service that the residents of this county really want or expect, or some kind of consensus, okay? And then once we get that, then we can put a price tag on it, and we can go back to our citizens and say, okay, this is a service you want. This is how much it's going to cost. Are you willing to do that? The problem with the $2 bill that I see, and I understand people's frustrations, but the problem I see is that's a Pandora's box. And I'll tell you what. There are many of my constituents in the Oregon State Legislature that would love to make all the decisions for Josephine County. Not just that one. And if you say, please make this decision for us because we can't, trust me, they will not stop there. So I understand the frustration. I got it. But I also understand how Salem works. And if you're willing to take that chance, I'm not right now. I'm playing the inside baseball. I'm up there. I understand with some of these folks how they think and what their desires are. I think that's a very dangerous direction for us to go. I would rather, and that's something I talked to Dave Daniel, and we're going to have some other discussions on how do we do these forums. I told Dave, I'm willing to go with you to whether it's Williams, Cave Junction, whatever. I'm willing to go and have these discussions with the citizens and try to figure out what level do we want.
Have this discussion. Well, I'm guessing that have this discussion means persuade people to vote for the levy. That's all I'm hearing. I mean, this is, well, I don't know about the governor coming down here and doing this, but over here, the boogeyman is really waiting in the wings.
He even described his fellow senators and reps as his constituents. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So is this a Freudian slip with, well, it's first year lunkheads. But, yeah, the general idea is he wants to go with Dave Daniel. Gee, what side do you think Dave would take? And he wants to try to convince, and he wants to find out from people what level. We've already told him what level. We've already decided what level.
Yes.
And then set a price tag to it.
Yeah.
We've already set the price tag. We've already said we've had enough of your price tags. No more.
Yes. Right. I don't get it. Why is it, they say we have to make a choice. Well, what they mean is you have to make this choice here. They're not saying that, we're giving you a choice. You can pick the way you want, or you can pick the way we want. They're saying you can pick the way we want. No, really, pick the way we want. Oh, what is wrong with you? You haven't picked the way we wanted. For crying out loud, we've told you, you need to pick this way.
Now, how is it?
After a while, you want to pull your hair out.
I like Herman, but how is it that he's lived here all this time, and we've had these no votes at least since 1998? He doesn't know what the people want. He really doesn't. He's supposed to represent us, but he has no idea. I don't know what the people want. What do they want, Herman? You know what we want. We made it clear what we want. Well, but that's not what I want. Oh, okay.
You know what? This is inside government culture again. You know what? It was funny because I remember when he came down, we had the opportunity to speak to him last summer. And, it seems to me that, he says, well, I got all this work to do. You got to read all these bills and blah, blah, blah. Half of this stuff by 2 sentences in, I know where I'm at on it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand. I mean, you could give her a peripheral read of most of this stuff and go, this is crazy. I'm not for this. We don't have the money for that. But yet they slam them down with this massive load of stuff instead of having them free to pursue the agenda that their constituents, the people that voted for you, put you up there to pursue.
But he doesn't know what it is. That's what he just is admitting. He has no idea what we want. You have no idea what we want? You have no idea. Well, what price tag? We already set the price tag. Well, what level of service? We've already set the level of service. Well, but I don't like that level of service. Well, get over it, because that's what we've chosen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a mystery. That's a mystery.
Okay. All right. One more thing is that is that Simon Hare, he went off the last couple of days, and he was in with the Association of ONC Counties. And they decided, you already know this because we've already announced it, they decided they're going to reaffirm the fact that they put Simon Hare in as their vice president of the Association of ONC Counties, because as they put it, he's the right man for the job, based on something. At any rate, there were a couple of citizens who went up to say, hey, we're going to make the trip up there. And we're going to tell the Association of ONC Counties what we think about this. And then maybe they're going to listen to us. Yeah. Okay. So what we did is we talked with Mark Seligman before he went. And I said to him real clearly, Mark, you can't change what you're going to say, because we're going to play back what you're going to say, because we're not going to be there to record it. But you just got to match it word for word, because he wanted to read it from a piece of paper. So we're going to do the best that we can. This is not live, obviously, and it's not based on what he said in that room, although I think our audio on these last couple of meetings was pretty good. This is even a little bit better because it was done on the phone. And here is the text of what Mark Seligman said. Instead of us reading it, it's Mark Seligman reading it. So take it away, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioners and ONC Board. My name is Mark Seligman. I have a statement I wish to read to all of you. I wish to thank Commissioner Tony Hyde for this opportunity. First, we traveled 150 miles to come here today from Josephine County. We represent many people who feel strongly about Commissioner Simon Hare. We recognize the importance of this association. We understand the importance of control of our land and our timber rights. We support your efforts. In a county needing jobs, we need you to fight for us in Washington. Personally, I live in Selma, home of the Biscuit Fire. I have witnessed firsthand what happens with fires. Harvesting dead lumber, clearing a brush, and thinning are all important to a healthy forest and safer communities. The jobs that are created because of these efforts are vital to our economy. I realize your association is made up of 18 counties, all fighting the same cause. You work as a unit, and no one commissioner is more important than the entire group. I traveled here from Josephine County because I'm distressed that one of your members who represents Josephine County was elected vice president of your organization, a prestigious position at the time he was sitting in a Eugene jail cell for drunk driving. Commissioner Hare is a smart person. There is no question about that. However, ethical considerations are more important than skill and communication. Commissioner Hare is now facing a recall. It is possible he will not be a vice president if he is recalled. This is not just the first incident for Commissioner Hare involving alcohol. It is the third, and there are more than that that haven't even been publicized. Alcoholism is a disease. It involves judgment. Citizens of Josephine County need good judgment. You commissioners need to come to conclusions that better the ONC counties and the people. I ask you, do you feel someone like Commissioner Hare is able to do that? I did not go out drinking to a strip club, drive drunk. Last night I went to sleep early, wrote this speech, and prepared myself for today. Commissioner Hare did none of that the night before he was elected vice president. This was a gross error of judgment. He did not hold this board in very high regard that night. It was poor judgment. Commissioner Hare should resign as Josephine County Commissioner and resign as Vice President of ONC Counties. He needs to get help for his addiction to alcohol and the poor judgment it brings him. His problem is also the problem of Josephine County citizens and the ONC as well. Judgment and a clear mind is paramount in this timber battle. We need it. You need it. Commissioner Hare has violated his oath of office regarding his demeanor. An elected official needs to be held to a higher standard. He has not done that at least 2 other times due to alcohol. Like I say, I'm traveling a long way to speak 5 minutes before this distinguished group. I feel strongly about good representation and ethical standards for elected officials. You may have received phone calls and emails from others from my county regarding this issue. Commissioner Hare has not been appointed chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. He was skipped over by his fellow commissioners. He has a pending ethics violation due to conflict of interest with a hemp grow he was involved with. He has been found guilty of public open meeting law. Previous ethics issues involved the Medford police and their accusation that he filed a false police report and drove drunk. Case closed. Texting lewd messages in a bar. There is a pattern of poor judgment here. Finally, I wish Commissioner Hare success in his battle against his addiction. I urge him to resign as commissioner and vice president. If he chooses not to resign as commissioner and vice president of the ONC, then he could be recalled. However, the ONC board members should do the correct thing and remove him as vice president. Failure to do that will hurt the timber cause, but will also make you enablers of Simon Hare. We all want him better. He can no longer effectively represent the citizens of Josephine County or this board. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree. This is I'm glad that Mark felt strongly enough about this to go all the way to Salem to say that, and I'm apparently to no effect. But I think all of this stuff does chip away at Simon somewhere inside, and I think that was part of the reason, perhaps, that Mark wanted to do that, and I'm on board with him with that. I think at this point, taking out Simon Hare is an admirable cause.
what a sad state of affairs here, really. There are alternatives. There are things that we can do. And one of the things you can do is just tell people what you heard tonight. Tell them what you heard about from Herman Bertschiger, Herman's backup on this and what he thinks needs to be done. He needs to travel around the county with the sheriff convincing people to vote for this next levy. Okay, tell them what it was that Senator Jeff Merkley told all of us about the SRS payments and what's going to happen in the future. Talk to people. In my opinion, I think you should talk to them about what you think are the solutions and share that with us if you like, so that as citizens of this place, first we have to be informed, then we have to talk to each other, and then we have to talk about some solutions to these things, which is part of what this is all about. Mike? So, what a week.
Yeah. No kidding. It has been a lot of action this week, and more to come. I think that this is the season. In addition to another levy being announced or put forward at any time, now we have the campaign for these two open commissioner seats, and the city council and mayor and Cape Junction mayor and a potential replacement for Simon Hare when and if he gets recalled. This is going to be it's going to be a slam dunk 6 months of rock'em sock'em activity.
There was a gathering, we'll leave with this, there was a gathering of, I think it was called the THC something or other. It was about the active ingredient in marijuana, and they had that today. And they're sitting at the table with Tony Webb, was Cliff Thomason. They were talking to each other and agreeing on things, apparently, according to what Mark told me, that Tony Webb is there saying, hey, I really support the idea of marijuana and et cetera, which is interesting. We usually think of, we all do, come on now, of Mark Seligman as being sort of the marijuana candidate. But now he's got a bit of a challenge in front of him because this guy, Shane Christen, has decided that he's going to toss in his hat and he's going to run for the same position, opposing Cheryl Walker, apparently going to pull votes away. And we've talked about this already from Mark Seligman. So I talked to Mark about that, and he's trying very hard to convince Shane to change his running side from running against Mark to running against me.
Yes, isn't that nice?
Isn't that sweet? So, but it's not going to affect you, Dale. I said, wait a minute, Mark. Obviously, you don't want this guy running against you because he would take votes away from you. So you're telling him to run against me? Well, it won't take any votes away from you. I said, Mark, what are you talking about? Well, I don't want him taking votes away from me.
Yes.
That's Mark.
Boy.
That's Mark Seligman.
Politics.
That's who he is. That's just who he is. Okay, so good luck to both of you. Good luck to all teams. that's tonight's show. We're glad that you could join us, and we'll do the best that we can to run the wheels off of our cars and be sure that you are informed about what the heck's going on in this county, and it's just going to increase. Good night.